And welcome back to Sullivan's Backstage Pass. I'm here with Lloyd. Lloyd, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Shawn. This is great that you do this.
Oh, are you kidding? Like, I'm geeking out right now because, like, you're one of those pioneers in the blues field in the Portland area that has built a foundation that will linger on for generations to come. And I just wanted to recognize that the work that you put in to get where you are today.
Wow.
And because like you're a master on many levels, right? When you put in that much time and that much work. And so how did you get started in music to begin with?
I had a musical family, and I had an older brother, about 3 years older than me, and he showed me how to throw a baseball and how to spell. And when he learned something, he'd show it to me, so I'd get it a little bit early, thought I had a lead on it. So he was taking drum lessons at 9, so I was taking drum lessons at 6 from him. But the way we did it was really fun. He'd say, hey, check it out, check it out, check it out. Okay, play this tune, and check out, when you do this, just keep your foot right here. That's a quarter note. That's the pulse right there. And just leave that like that. Okay, all right. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. You say 2 and 4, hit with your left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is now your right hand's going to do twice what your foot's doing. So it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Just now play that song. Now do that. And it was so much fun that I wasn't paying attention at school. I was doing this, and that got me into music. I had an older brother than him that played woodwinds. And I remember he took us to see my older brother playing this gig at the Oregonian building, and he had a big band. He played woodwinds and saxophone. And then they had this kids band. It was a trio called the Kingsmen. It had the big hit with Louie, but they were still kids. And they opened for him. And the one thing I noticed was they have saxophones and they have guitars, but both of them have drums. I'm going with the drums. And my mom would take me to his rehearsals and things, So it was just all around me. And then he took me to see people. And first, he took me to the teen fair, and I noticed the drummers weren't very good. I thought, how is it I'm aware of that? Because I didn't know people do this for a living. I just thought it was fun. And then I went, I got a skill. I can do something. And so I went to the music stores where it said drummer wanted, and I'd call them. And I'd get my parents or somebody to take me over there, and they'd say, you're 12. Yeah, let's go. No. But I put in my first actual gig at 14 years old in a Safeway parking lot for strawberry shortcake. So I was just I just kept going in that direction. I had no adult supervision. My dad passed away when I was in high school, and there was no one to tell me no. And so I just followed what opportunities came up, and I'm still doing that.
Was it always sort of like the blues that sort of got you started in music, or did you start with a different genre entirely?
No. Matter of fact, I saw James Brown in 1964. My brother and I were the only 2 white people in the building, and it was crushing. It just warped me forever. But at the same time, I had a friend in 6th grade that turned me on to Howlin Wolf and Muddy Waters, Sonny Boy Williamson, Sonny Terry and Brown and McGee. And I just started, he could do it. He could play it. And he doesn't need a band. He could just, when he go, Jimmy Reed, don't, I said, just show me that. It's a drum to me. I keep time with the guitar, and then I could sing that song because I like that song. And the songs were so direct, whereas popular music seemed kind of, rainbows and beaches and goofiness, and the blues stuff was right to the point. It was real life stuff. And I go, man, the phrasing, and they lay out and then drop it on you. And then opportunities came up to back up Big Walter, Big Mama Thornton, Charlie Musselwhite, people from Chicago that would come out here. And there weren't a lot of people that could play that music, or we were aware of that music. So having a background in that and getting to play with them, and they would show you, now you got to leave that bottom string open when you gives it that sound, or it won't sound like that song. And they were so excited that young white kids are interested in learning Chicago blues, that they couldn't wait to show it to you. And it was funny later when we'd get a gig and the white DJs would say, you got no business playing this music. And I said, well, but the people who created it really liked that we were we're spreading the word. My band was called A Struggle because S.P. Larry, a great drummer in Chicago in the day, stayed at my place, and he said, I'm too old. I'll never be back here again. It's a struggle, but you got to keep it alive. Yes, sir. So that's been my job. I took it way too serious, but.
So at what point did you start to realize, I'm actually pretty good at this guitar thing?
I blame my friend Curtis Salgado. Before I met Curtis, Paul DeLay and I played together. I hired Paul when he was 17. He wanted to play drums, and he came to me to learn drums. And then I didn't see him for a while. And then he was playing harmonica in the park, and it's really good. I mean, really powerful vibrato. Where did that come from? I said, our front man left, and we need a fourth guy. Why don't you come to rehearsal? And he and Jim Meesey were a freight train. I mean, a bass player, just give him this. One of our earlier gigs was backing Charlie Musselwhite in Eugene, and Curtis was there. And Robert Cray and Curtis said that was their first blues concert they went to. And I didn't know that till I talked with Robert years later. We've become friends, and I'm a huge fan of him because he's so smooth. But Curtis came to me when he left Robert and said, we should start a band. And I was back on drums. I wasn't playing guitar except on Tuesdays at Key Largo just to keep in shape. And I said, I don't really have a band. And he says, well, I know these guys in Eugene. And I said, well, I got a gig at New Year's Eve, but I don't have a band. He said, let's do it. So we showed up, hadn't played together. Les Sarnoff, who started Kink Radio, was the DJ. And he said, we're going to put the first set on the radio. And I went, Curtis and I looked at each other. Let's not tell him we haven't actually played together. But Curtis starts out, goes, B.B. King, C, go. I'm being baby, and he's singing. Second song, I said, Jimmy Reed, E, go. And it was, the band had such a good history of skills in that style. We were together like 6 years, and we never recorded or took a picture, but I learned so much. And Curtis would go back and turn my amp up. And I say, I'm a fifth wheel. You've got Joel Foy, a really great guitar player. You sing really great. I don't really need to be here. And he said, no, you'll go for the throat. I said, what? And he'd turn my amp all the way up and then push me, go, go, go. I think that's the support that made me really take guitar seriously, because he was really saying, you got to do this, go, go. And we had this cool band. And then he got a call to go with Room Full of Blues and said, oh, by the way, tomorrow I'm joining Room Full of Blues. Goodbye. Oh. So I started my own thing. And was put my band together for songwriting, and I started playing Mondays just to work on that. And it just snowballed and took off, and I got away with it. So I still love it more than ever.
And one of the things that I love asking the artists about, and I really do think that you're an amazing artist, is what is it about being on stage that keeps you coming back from time and time again? What do you love about the live performance piece?
I think there's something about playing music, to me, especially playing with others. You're responding to what's going on in the moment, and you're completely absorbed in that moment, and you don't really even know where it's coming from. You're responding to things, not even thinking about it. And so you find by the end of the night, you found things that you didn't know were in there because responding to the people around you. So that interaction and complete absorption in that, you're exhausted, but it's kind of a healthy exhaustion in that you worked hard. And it doesn't come any other way so much. You can mow the lawn, and I enjoy that too. But it's that interaction and growing and being able to play a little better than you did yesterday. Maybe, hopefully.
Yeah. But and as you're performing, right, and you're looking out into the audience, what kind of things are you paying attention to that lets you know the audience is giving what you're taking, or taking what you're giving?
I'm glad you asked that, because I didn't wake up to that right away. For the longest time, like a lot of musicians, I was into the playing, not making a mistake, connecting, getting everything, hit the hits right, get the ending right. And I wasn't paying attention. And I noticed Curtis went right to the audience. And I just hadn't thought about that. But I think that later on, I played with my mind goes blank at the wrong time. Carlton Jackson is a wonderful drummer, and you could feel him listening. But he made a point of it's not about the playing, it's about the listening. What you play comes from listening. If you're not aware of the stuff around you, you're just playing your own notes, which are not connecting to anything, and you're not engaged, and that includes the audience. And now, more than ever, I appreciate the audience. I'm really glad they're there because their energy, if they're having fun, then you're having fun, and it builds in your intensity and it takes you to the next level. The audience isn't meaning to do that, but that energy takes you to new places. So now I'm more aware of the other players and the audience. I'll practice at home and learn the song. But now I look around the room, and if it seems like kind of a quiet night, I'll start out. And I won't even tell the band what it is. I'll say, it's in E. I'll start it out. Fall in when you feel it. And a little bit, and I'll hear the drummer come in and start setting up a thing, and I'm playing, and the bass player goes, really? And he starts to, and now we've built the tune together, and the audience is going, where are you going with this? And we did it together.
I love that. And one of the things too that I want to stress upon musicians, right? And I would love your perspective as somebody that's been around.
Yeah.
How important is it that musicians get along with each other before, during, and after a set?
It's the most important, I think, in any field of work. You like work, you want to work with people you like. And so it didn't take long. There's some really great players, but they can be a problem in real life to deal with. And it took me a long time to say I'd rather have somebody that I just enjoy coming to work and playing with than the greatest musician I could possibly work with. You hope for both, but that's the most important, listening and being another person that listens.
And then in terms of like the band dynamic, right? Because one of the things that I'm always fascinated by is just how you're able to communicate on stage without saying a single word. Is that something you've developed over the years, or was that something that sort of came easy to you? That nonverbal piece?
That also changing. I had the same band for 45 years, and we built these things together, and bass player might decide he wants to play a solo now. And usually he's smart enough to know it's a good time for it, or I'll give him a moment like that, and it just flies. And now we keep it in there. There was a section that grew, and I remember a tune I used to open with called Live It Up, that we kept extending the outro, and people would add to it over the years, and I couldn't explain it to somebody else. They just knew. And the horn section had evolved. The horn parts were in their heads, and it wasn't until they passed away and I had to replace them, and I didn't have charts. And so fortunately, some horn players from the recordings wrote charts to the stuff, and now I hire people I don't know, and they read the chart, and I have to follow that. So a lot of it, there are rules, and you can say in music talk, if you start with a 12-bar blues, that has a form to it. If you're in C, that's called the 1 chord, and the 4 chord is the 4th in the scale of C. So you have C, F, and G. And you have 4 bars here, 2 bars here, 2 bars here. And that's the rules. That's what a blues progression is. Now there's an 8-bar blues. That's a sequence of chords. And then the substitution of a 2-5-1. So instead of the 4, you go to the 2. And you might use a 2 minor. B.B. King did that a lot. So I'll say it's a B.B. shuffle in C, 2-5-1, minor the 2. And they'll know exactly what we're talking about. So there are rules to play by. And then again, if you've played with people for a long time, the tunes change. There's a band I work with in Denmark that would tour Europe once a summer, and they had different strengths. And I'd realize I'd say, I'm going to stay away from that song, but they're doing right with this one. And it came time to introduce the band, and right where this little breakdown was, I had the band keep playing, and I'd introduce them and introduce the keyboard player, and then I'd say, play the progression once around. And while he's playing, we're going to go, oh, shoot, ah, whoop, ooh, like that behind him while he's playing. And they'd look at me, and then he'd jump in, and we kept it. So as it'd be 17 shows. So by the third or fourth or fifth night, we're starting to push that and keep that, throw that away, and become this thing. So having the same fellas to work with, you can get to a level you can't get to if it's always pickup players. So I like, now I've got a barrage of friends. I've got 3 people that know my stuff on bass, 3 people that know it on keyboards, 3 drummers, maybe 12 drummers, because they're the hardest to keep in line, which is different than the whole rest of my life. So this part of my life is completely upside down from having the same band. Now, every night is different. And I have to think about that when I go into the night. I go, I can call this, I can't call that. I need to learn. This guy sings. If I learn a few of his tunes, that'll help him. So I have to learn stuff I don't know. And there's a fellow named Chance Hayden here in town that I think is a brilliant musician, younger player, and really fast. He's really good at playing with other people on the call. And they start an Al Green tune with a bunch of chord changes. I don't know. I said, wait, I don't know that one. He goes, oh, it's on your phone. Here, 2, 3. We didn't do it that way. And I really had to take the needle on the pen and go back over and over until we learned it and memorized it. Everything was memorized. But the world's going pretty fast these days, and I got to keep up.
And then in terms of like the music piece too, one of the things that I find fascinating is that I do believe that the muse is like a living, breathing thing, and that you never know when the muse is going to visit you.
Yeah.
So when the muse visits you, how do you capture her? Do you have like a recording device? Do you write stuff down? Like, how do you capture that moment when a new song idea just gets whispered into your ear?
That's a great question, because it's never the same. And I'm really bad at this. I don't have ways of recording, and I try to play it over and over or visualize a pattern on the neck that I can go back to, but the rhythm of it, I forgot. And that is a problem. But in the old days, I would just sit with the tune and keep playing it over and write down what it is. There was a record called Trouble Monkey that I did in Los Angeles that really made things take off for me, and it was a great record, live to 2-track, 11-piece band, Time to Grow Up, and it went great. I love that record. And they came back 6 or less than that, 3 months later, and said, let's do another one. That was my life's work. What do you mean another one? And I thought, I got to start working at this like a job, and every day I'll go in the room and I'll just fuss around, and then I'll write down bits and pieces and put them in a file. And next time I'll go in there, I don't have anything in my mind, but I'm going to go in and fuss around at a groove, maybe a chord progression that I want to alter in some way, and I'll just be messing with it. And then I'll dig through and say, oh, that would be a good bridge for this. And I'm working at it like a job to be self-motivated. So that's a discipline that I need work on. And other times I've had to pull over the car because I had a song come to me all at once, bam, which is rare. And I'm driving along going, I'm going to forget this. Because I never thought, I can't remember it now, but it was this whole long spiel. It went bam. I thought, that's great. I have to get home and finish it. So I had to pull over and write all of that down and then go home and finish it. So it comes in pieces.
And then in terms of like the live music piece, right? One of the things that I ask every person on the podcast is, if you're thinking about a venue from the musician's perspective, what is something that venues could do to make a musician's life a little bit easier when it comes to performing live?
Wow. You're asking all the right questions. It's a people business. And the clubs that I've found that last pay attention to that at least as much as the numbers. But a lot of clubs, it's just numbers. And they don't want to contribute. They want you to do it for them. You advertise for them. You get your people to come in. You do it. You do it. And you go, oh, wait a minute. If I had a club, what's your menu? You need to have something, whether it's music or food or whatever, that's clear, unique, not like anywhere else. And the best you could do it now, it could be a good value. There was a club I talked into having music one time because they had great lunches and they had a parking lot. And I lived over there, a little place called the Dandelion Pub in Northwest Portland. And they didn't have music, but I just liked the room. It was a nice size. And I wanted to start the struggle. So I wanted to play there on Mondays and work on my original material with the big band. I said, money's not an issue. This is a place to develop the material for us. So don't worry about that. We'll work that out. We put a cover charge on it. And the bartender said, I'm a bass player. Let's just do it. So he didn't ask permission and we just set up and played. And it turns out a lot of people in the area got out of the restaurant business and came over for a drink after work. And that was a walk-in audience and it was stable. And it went well enough to start having music on weekends and bringing band. It grew really nice. But they had affordable soups that were really good. Lots of different soups, every day a different kind of soup, but it was so good. It was a meal in itself and unique and affordable. And I thought they had a lot of, they kind of made things work without having, well, I was spots on a TV and crappy food. Yeah, how'd you ever think of that? So if you want country music, be really proud of it, have the best country music you can find, and you want food that goes with that, cool. But don't apologize and try to be everything and not care about anything, which is what I see mostly. But you'll see someone that has a passion for whether it's the food or the music, but they're really engaged in it. And I think they're aware of the people. Another place called the Telecom that was there forever, the way they did it when they started in is they went to all the businesses in the neighborhood and had a lunch deal, really good home cooking and a really good deal for lunch. And then they got known in the neighborhood and then they started having dinners, really good dinners. But they didn't know how to keep people after dinner. So they hired us and other musicians to play, but they established what it is they were doing clearly and worked hard at making it really good quality. And when they finally sold it, they did really well. The very first people that got a hold of it tried to not have good food, not have quality help, didn't clean the tables, didn't try to get cheaper bands, everything cheaper. And they tore the building down. So I think think about something people would enjoy that they could afford, they would come back to because they can't get it somewhere else, and make it people friendly.
Yeah, because one of the things that I want to stress to venues that listen to this podcast is not that this needs to be an adversarial relationship. This
Not at
needs
all.
to be a partnership with musicians.
Yeah.
Because if the venue helps support musicians, you get better musicians. And if you have better music, you get better audience. And so it's a win-win sort of mentality that sort of allows a venue to last longer than other venues.
I think you hit the nail on the head, working together. Another club that was new at this, and they just didn't want to pay anybody hardly anything. And I loved the club. And I said, this looks like a club I would like, the old style nightclub. And I said, let me try something once. He said, we don't have a cover. No one will come if we have a cover. I said, well, let me try this once. I want to put a $15 cover. Oh, no one will come in. I said, just let me try this once. If it doesn't work, I will never bother you again. I said, but what we do is you have it $12 in advance. And you start about a month to 6 weeks out telling them about this, what they're going to see. And then about a month in, you start making some changes. We're going to have a guest Oh, they're going to have a raffle. Oh, they're going to do something. There's going to be a dance contest. You're going to do something, have some special food thing, but you're going to do something that, it brings it up again. Then you get down to like the 2 weeks and you hit it maybe every other day. And then maybe I'll do an interview on a radio station. In the old days it was at a radio station, but you'll give it a little more splash as you get closer. And then you say, get your tickets now, advance ticket, because it's a small place and it's almost sold out. And then you'll get the walk-ins that come in anyway because it's Saturday night. But they sold the place out, did so well, they gave me the full amount and money from the bar because they'd never done so well at the bar. And then they had a cover charge from then on. And the cover charge can vary to the size of the band or the amount of input. But here's what I'll say about the club was they were good on the internet, better than I am. And I'd send them pictures and info, and they would make splashes and make things for all the bands. So they were real good at getting visibility on the internet. And the band gave them that information to work with, and the club did their half. And that kind of teamwork, I think, works.
Yeah, because like one of the things that frustrates me about the Portland scene, outside of the Cascade Blues Association, if you want to go see live music, it's hard to find what's going on unless you know the specific venue or the specific neighborhood.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has always puzzled me about that piece is that there's no central sort of place where you can go to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like the venues don't work together. And like even that seems like a little short-sighted to me sometimes, because like the venues itself seem like they're competing, but at the same time they could be mutually beneficial and just having a different relationship.
Bingo. In the old days, I remember Willamette Week was that. And in Seattle, it was the same thing. And there was another magazine where you open the front page and it had all the club listings. Boom. And then it goes away. A new editor, somebody comes in and they're going to go a different direction and not do that anymore. But maybe it's time to do that again.
So in terms of like the musical performance piece, right? Because one of the things that I appreciate about your music is you pay a lot of attention to dynamics and different volumes as you put those albums together.
Yeah.
How much forethought goes into dynamics and volume when you're putting a record together?
It happens at the time, but the secret, I think, and some of the people that I really admire, I still shake my head. One of the best at it to me is Taj Mahal. Bonnie Raitt's really good at it too, but it's the story being told. You're telling a story. This song is a story that was important to you for some reason to write a song about it. But when you say it, listen to what you're saying. What do you say? Don't just and back to the guitar solo. Tell the story, because the story's good. And if you tell it like it's good, I think it just brings it to life.
And one of the things that I love about music in particular is that it crosses all racial divides. It crosses all religious divides.
Yes.
Like, music welcomes everyone. And one of the things that I love about the local music scene, and that I stress to people all the time, is like, instead of going to a $400 show, go to three $30 shows and just tell me what the difference is. Because like when you go to a local show that's a venue like less than 300 people, you're not sacrificing volume and clarity for the performance. A stadium performance is not going to be the best musical performance you're going to hear. But I guarantee you go to Lloyd Jones on a Friday night in a club environment, and you're going to have a different show every night. You're going to have shared passion amongst all of the musicians and opportunities for every musician on stage to shine.
Yeah.
So like why is it, in your perspective, so important that we get the community to rally behind local music?
We talked about this a little bit earlier, and I grew up at a time before there was the internet and the cell phones, and that was the only thing people did to socialize, was to go out. So there was music everywhere. And people danced and stayed out till 3 a.m, and I thought that was normal, and it was then. Now people go, they have everything is so more complicated, and they have so much more on the plate, and their attention span's about 15 minutes. And so it's just you have to adjust to the world of today. But I don't know where it's going. I found that things seemed more creative because you had so much opportunity to work. And we're just talking about, when I came up, bands were like Jimi Hendrix and Tower of Power, and every time something came out, where did that come from? It was such an eye-opener. It wasn't like anything you'd ever heard before, and you just kept getting surprised, and you'd get energized by, wow, I hadn't thought of that. And that's the fun of it. I always like to reach a place we didn't reach before. The last Wednesday every month, we got a band called Soul Cooking, and everybody sings and everybody brings songs, and we have no plan. But you do too. You do too. And you get to bring whatever you want, but everybody is so monstrous on their instrument that I just giggle going, look out, look out. It's going to be taken somewhere you've never been. So it's a thrill to come to work in that environment.
And that's one of the things I love about the blues too, is because you'll go to a show and then the artist on the stage will see like, oh, hey, there's Timmer in the audience. Hey,
Yeah.
come on stage, Timmer, and play a song or two. And it's just this level of family dynamic.
I think music should be like that in a community. In Chicago, South Chicago, people would come in, and if sitting in was a thing that you did to say hello, and it was, you always see somebody and invite them up in the bandstand. It was and there was trash talking to do it too, but you threaten them, and then you have to cut them, and they have to catch you back, and so it was just a real social thing. So I always invite people to sit in. I go, I see somebody I know, I just think it's the right thing to do.
I think it's so cool. I think it's absolutely so cool. And then, like, if you look back on your career, do you have any of those moments that stand out where you're like, finish a show and you're like, wow, I'm kind of geeking out. I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah. Yeah. There are times when you go, I wish I could do that again.
But tell me about a time where everything went right.
Quite a few. Not that long ago, we played in Salem. The guy I was playing with someone else, and the guy came up to me and said, we've had this festival for like 29 years. Why haven't you played it? And I looked at him and said, I was wondering the same thing. So he hired us for the next year. And I think in this case, I had to go thank the sound guy, because I think we played that well because we could hear that well. And it was magical. And Brian Fox was playing drums with me at the time, and I remember he would set things up. I'd start to introduce a tune, and I could hear him just going, come on now, shut up, we're going to go. We're gonna go. But everybody picked up on each other, and you could feel them throwing the ball around, And at the end of it, I went, that was not only a perfect night, but it wasn't perfect in that we executed everything perfect. It was perfect that it flew. But I think it flew because of the sound guy. So I went over and said, it's your fault. Blame you. Being able to hear is really vital. And there are times when the stage is so big and separated that you can't play together because you can't hear together. And I get distracted by that. And some of these bigger festivals, I go, the monitor was so wrong that I couldn't connect with anything, hard as I would try. And then other times, you walk into a place, you think, oh, this is going to be a disaster. I don't know anybody that they don't know my tunes. The sound guy is having trouble over there. Oh boy, 2, 3, 4. And then it's not, it's perfect. You went, I'm in good hands. We have a great community, and we have a lot of great talent, not just sound system, but such great singers and musicians that a lot of these things that I've gone to that were fundraisers and whatnot, I just sit back and go, so many good players in this town.
Totally understandable too, because like one of the things that I love about Portland in general is just how much talent there is.
I agree.
and you can go out to every night of the week and get an exceptional show for not that much money.
Yeah.
um which is also kind of like the double-edged sword of music in a way, because like yes, there are all these shows and a lot of musicians do it for the passion of the music, because to make money in music this day
Yeah.
is tough for some folks,
Yeah.
just because it's just the opportunities aren't there as much.
That's the part of this world now that I don't know what young players are going to do because they don't have the opportunities we had to be able to make a living at it.
And so how important is the jam scene to the success of blues?
I'm not such a jam fan. I'll invite people to come sit in that I know play, but uh, there's a lot of things that the jam just starts getting worse and worse. I mean, the level of the game until the good players go, I'm not going to be drugged through that, and they sit out, and then they sit out, and then pretty soon the level of the game has gone down to, I don't think so. But you need to have an opportunity for people to get out to play. But I never went and sat in with people when I wasn't ready or that I didn't know. I don't know. I think I'm not that many jams have gone that well that I've seen and going, this is going the wrong direction. So I guess it would be a skill to have a house band that stays there and keeps the level of that jam up where it needs to be.
And I think that's an important distinction, right? Because I like the way like Chad Rupp does his blues jam
Yeah.
on Mondays.
Yeah.
That there is a level of professionalism you have to achieve before you can get on stage.
Well, Chad's a good people person, and he'll stay there and help them along.
Yeah.
Not just go, uh-oh, it's jam time. We did the first set and we're out of here. And I get that a lot. And we always say jam is a key. That's a code word for don't pay the band. We'll just have a jam. And all their friends will come in and see him and give the club the money, but they don't have to pay the band. So they immediately go to karaoke or jam. So for me, that's not a good thing.
I appreciate that perspective, right? Because I always thought of like the jam as the place for up and coming musicians to get stage time.
I say it's good you have to play with other people, but that's something you should do on your own with other friends, and do that until you can keep up with the momentum of a tune. People will learn a few chords or learn a few licks, but when the clock's going and you got to play up time, you got to phrase in time. You got to know where you are now. Did you hit the 5 chord? Did you announce the 1? Are we going to the bridge? Where are you? Those are the things you got to clear up you do your homework.
And then in terms of like that piece, right? Because some musicians prefer different band members to keep time. Are you the kind of person that says the drummers where you keep your time, or you are more like listening in for the bass to cue like when your timing is in the band?
You all have the responsibility to be aware of time, and you have to connect with everyone else. But in my music, the drummer is so important to the music with the funky stuff and everything and it doesn't have to be busy and it doesn't have to be a lot of chops. The pulse has to be steady and clear. And you can play almost nothing as long as it's steady and clear. It's when people let go of that and you can't phrase to them. And I had a drummer sit in one time, and he was a decent drummer, but he was all over the map and wouldn't tone down. He was just spazzing out. And I looked at the bass player and said, help me out. And he turned up and just kept time on the bass. And I know how hard that was on him to do it, but the good drummer is really important.
And then do you prefer to like have a set list, or do you sort of like allow yourself some room if you're feeling it with the crowd? Like, okay, you can tell the crowd is going one way, so let's deviate from the set list tonight.
Both. I use the sound list as a suggestion. And I tell them that a lot of times we go on the road and they want to know everything, and I'll say, we'll leave at this time and check the hotel here, and we have a sound check here, and we'll eat here, and we'll do that. Then I said, now that I've given you that, that's what's not going to happen. So I have a song list, but that's not what's going to happen. But I've got somewhere to go. If I'm not thinking of stuff I just need to not have dead air, and I'll just And then I might think of something else and go, you know, that's not going to work right now. Let's go over here. And they know that. They know me well enough.
And then when you say something like that's not going to work right here, what are some of the reasons where you may like do a shift in the middle of a set?
Well, um, that's a good question. I just reading whether they're dancing or they're not dancing, whether they're it's time to slow it down, or I just feel better about. I think we'd be stronger on this tune right now than that. I just don't want to try that right now.
And something else
I might say sometimes you need the energy of the audience to try new stuff. You know, I would try this, but I'm going to wait till the energy's in the room and they'll help us fly.
And so one of the things that I still hear today, right? Because like I'm a wallflower. Like I love to like be in the side of the room and just sort of watch everything that happens around me. And one of the conversations that I hear to this day is that people who enjoyed a show are hesitant to come up to the artist afterwards and tell them how much they enjoyed the music. So from an artist's perspective, why is it important that your fans come up to you and let you know that they enjoyed the music?
Well, especially at this stage of my life, I just do it to bring some joy into the world. That's my contribution. And if somebody says they got that, I'd love to know it. That we actually created a pleasant experience for a period of time, you know. I go, that's my function. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like to do that. I told a story one time, and it just warmed my heart. This woman came up to me and said, I told a story about Janis Scroggins was a magnificent gospel piano player in Portland and a mentor to me. And when she passed away too early, she had diabetes and she just passed way too soon. And her daughter asked me to play at the funeral. And I had to play Goodnight Irene. That was their favorite song. And I said, I can't. I'll just be a mess. I called Curtis. I said, I've seen you do this. How do you do that? He says, I saw him for hours ahead of time. So they all cried out. And so I had to go. I had to do that. And it's open casket, and there she is. And I heard this voice say, you'll be fine. I heard Janis say, you'll be fine. Do your job. And it went really well. I'm afraid of nothing now. So this woman said she plays music in a band in a smaller town and wanted to sing, but was afraid. Finally, she said, I heard that story. I'm going to try it. And they never thought a thing about it. You know, she sang and nobody made it. It went fine. It went cool.
Because like it's one of those things like we're our worst critics.
Oh yeah.
You know, we're so afraid of our own failures. So anytime we have the opportunity to hear from people that you're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
it just makes the work that much more meaningful. Because passion, like, music is a passion project. It's a life's work of passion and hard work, where you put the hours in to be a musician. At the end of the day, you need that sort of feedback from people because there are so many other barriers to music. And
That's a
that's
really good
kind of what
point.
we do it for, right? Is for the fans to enjoy or to be moved.
That's just the objective is to get you to feel better and put your troubles down for a little bit and just have a calm, enjoyable, not stressful moment. And if you do, I couldn't be happy. I always say the kindest thing you can do is dance. If I see you dancing, thank you.
And I would add, dancing comes in any form,
Yeah.
right? So if you have mobility issues, and you're still rocking back and forth to the music,
That's dancing.
the artist notices that,
Yeah.
and they key in on that, right?
Yeah.
So nobody's asking you to dance if you don't have the ability. Dance to your ability.
Yeah.
And just that alone makes so much difference, because like we don't want to see those people in the audience just stoic and not doing anything. We need a head bob. We need a foot pedal, like
Yeah.
something that cues us in, like, okay, like he's not dancing in front of me, but I still know he's got it.
I always get so excited when I go see somebody. I'll buy their CD and tip them like crazy. I'm going, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Which brings up a good point, right? Because I want to stress this out too. Like when you're at the bar and you're enjoying a musician, don't just tip the bartender, right? Tip the band as well.
Yeah.
Even if it's only $3, $4, $5, like it means so much to just that little gesture.
I think people are better about that now than ever before.
Yeah.
I play my Monday is free. Every Monday at the Muddy Rudder. If I was paid $5, nobody'd go, but if it's free, they'll put 20s in.
Ain't that something?
It's up to you, but I just that's a real connection kind of gig. I just play by myself on Mondays at the Muddy Rudder, but I adore that place, and the vibe is it's just right for that.
So I have a question about that, right? So when you're playing by yourself, right, how do you decide which parts of the music you bring in? Because like when you're thinking about some of your greatest hits
Yeah.
with a full band, how do you narrow that down into just you and a guitar?
Generally I don't do what I do in the band.
Oh, interesting.
It's primarily, I would just play a traditional Piedmont style stuff at home to relax. That's really relaxing to me. I never thought of doing it professionally. I never thought of playing guitar professionally, but that came really late in life. And now it's just so soothing to sit and pick, and I just play covers. And then when this last recording I made in Nashville, and I stayed on a mattress up above the studio, and there's no plumbing. And I went out in the evenings, and there's all this racket. I didn't know what it was. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, that's the frogs." Okay. And I went next night, I said, "Oh, you must, this meteor shower. It went on for long. It was great. You look up at the trees." They said, "No, those are fireflies." Oh. And I wound up writing a song about summertime in Tennessee on acoustic guitar about just hanging there. And it's the first time I've started writing in the Piedmont acoustic style. And now I'm up to about 8 or 10 tunes, and I'd like to record. Because as I get older, it's more relaxing and less stressful, and I don't have to deal with traveling in the band and all the costs and scheduling, rehearsals and all that. I could just sit there and relax and hopefully bring other people to a relaxing place. And I did one recording of acoustic music, and it's all covers except for one. And Downbeat got a hold of it and gave it a really good review, which surprised me because the guy who recorded it called from Seattle and said they're going to take the whole studio down, knock the building down, and if you come up tomorrow, I can record you for nothing. So I drove up there and I played 18 songs and drove home. I never even listened to it. And he sent me this stuff, and I heard the first song was out of tune. I said, "Just throw it away." And he said, "Well, how much did you listen to it?" I said, "Well, just the first one, but if the first one's out of tune, they're all out of tune. Listen to it." And the rest was fine. It wasn't out of tune. But what I noticed was it's not going to thrill anybody, but it's so peaceful and relaxing that I enjoyed it. I went, that's what I do that for, so that's fine. And Downbeat got a hold of it and said they never would have reviewed a record like this, doing all these tunes everybody already knows, and you can already get the real recordings of it and all that stuff. But they said it was so heartfelt, they gave it, I don't know, 4.5 stars. They gave it a good review. And I thought, wow, I didn't know that was a thing. But again, it's just enjoying the story.
And that's one of the things that I love about music in general, right? So like I'm autistic, and I bring this up, and I'm sorry for those of you listening who've heard this story a million times, but one of the things I struggle with is how to express emotions. But there's a song for that. And so depending on how I'm feeling, if I don't have the ability to tell somebody I'm going through this right now, I can send them a song that tells you
Oh,
exactly what I'm going through.
nice.
And music is that sort of universal connector, so that if you want like relaxing, there's a playlist you can create. If you want anger because you're going through anger, there's a playlist you can create. And so the fact that we can use music to help people with disabilities compel or convey emotion has been just a game changer for me.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so in terms of like your last recording, like some of the one before that, when you had like the full arrangement, you said that you earlier that you did a live track twice, or a live recording twice. So like when you record, do you record like the whole band at once, or do you record like individually and then just sort of try to piece them together on the track?
It's different with every situation. Trouble Monkey record was live, completely live, 11-piece band, and there was no overdubbing or anything. And that was scary. And I was so nervous about it. The band did a fantastic job. And I'd hired Terry Evans and Ray Williams, who sing with Ry Cooder, to sing with me on a couple of tracks. And they walked into I was so nervous. I just thought, if I screw this up, I'm in big trouble. And because I'm only used to live gigs. And they came in singing, walked in the room. Hey, and I went, that's what we're here to do. Do that. So it went great. And I was afraid to listen back to it, because if I hated it, I'm going to hate it for a long time. And I didn't listen to it. And then finally they said, you have to go do an interview to promote the recording. And it was playing when I walked in, but I didn't know that because I had never heard it. And it was just an instrumental section, and there wasn't any vocal at the time when I came in the room. And I was digging on it going, I said, who's that? The DJ looks at me like, you messing with me? And then the vocals come in. I went, oh, I liked it. I liked it when I didn't know who it was. So I was okay from that point. But generally, I'll go in with a live quartet, guitar, bass, drums, keyboard, live. And then we'll bring in what we need to put on it. And they'll be playing to this live energy.
Because I love that when you're able to capture that sort of live energy and it doesn't feel like it's overproduced.
The last recording, I really like that about the producer in particular, is why I did that. And that was just, I won't go on. It's a long story of how everything went so well for that recording to exist, because I had no money. But I went out with some songs, and he would document form to each tune. He said, play the first one. I played it. He says, okay, repeat that twice. Don't play that lick anymore after that. Then tag the ending. What's the next one? And he was putting form. So this is the form, and this is where other solos will go, and this is how the ending will go to each tune. And then I was going to go back, and we'll come back, and he'll have a band, and we'll record. And he said, now don't go overthink this and figure out all these things that you're going to do. We don't rehearse, and we don't play a song a second time.
That's scary.
Well, it relaxed me because I didn't have anything that I could screw up. I didn't have anything I was aiming at. And one of the earlier tunes, I said, I started out 2-bar guitar intro. It's up tempo. And the drummer, I didn't know, he'd been cooking at the house, and I thought he was a neighbor. I didn't know this is remarkable. Blove is his name, but he played drums with John Prine and Delbert and John Hyatt. I mean, he's first call for all these people, and he never even mentioned that he plays music. And he's sitting at the drum set. Okay, well, I'll start it out. It's just kind of up-tempo thing, and you'll hear it. And I'm going, and it comes in, and they come in. I went, or that. And we finished the whole thing because I didn't want to stop. And we got done, and he said, well, let's listen to it. I said, if we'd played it where you started in, it would have been frantic. So we laid it back against what you're doing. Okay. What's next one? It was that loose. And he said, just do that thing you do. Okay. And they were so good at it, really taught me to relax. And a couple of times they said, we're going to add some organ now. And I said, okay, I want Art Neville, but I want the dry bars out like only Ray Charles gets away with. And he said, oh, when you were in using the can, we put the keyboards on. You want to hear them? Yeah. I think I'll just stop giving advice. And these guys are way, way beyond me. This is what they do. And they look like they clean your garage for $5, but man, they are on the job. They get the right tone, the right timing. They're just this organism to play music with. And that was what easiest recording I ever made. I loved it. A lot of good people around that recording.
So we've been at this for about over an hour now.
Yeah.
And I guess the last question I'll ask is if you're looking at the generation coming up, right? What would your advice be to young musicians who are just starting out? Because, the music industry can be challenging and there are going to be setbacks. So like for those people who are looking at possibly getting into music or just starting out,
Yeah.
what would you tell them so that they don't give up?
I used to have a formula that I would say, this is how you put it together. No longer does that work. They changed every dynamic of that. But I think what is important to bear in mind is to find out what it is about music. What it is you want out of it. Do you want to be, in other words, you could go, I want to be a studio accuracy. I want to be a technician. You can call me on Wednesday to play on Thursday and I can sight read it and nail it first time. Or, and that's, I want to be that, I really like complex stuff and getting it right. Or say, I just like writing songs, making up songs. I don't want to perform. Or do you like being on the road? Kind of be honest with yourself about what your own strengths are, how you digest music and how it comes out via you. What is it that you do that is your strength? And kind of zero in on that. Don't try to be everything is my point. Because you can just go, well, that guy's better. Okay, he's better technically. He's got more licks. But a lot of the people I like don't do that. They tell stories. And it took me a long time to realize that I'm not a guitar player. I'm a drummer with a guitar. And I like the rhythmic interaction between the phrasing of the story and the instruments. And I think of the band as an instrument. And I'm hearing all of the band being the groove, and the lyric is a part of that. So that's fine with me. And now as I get older, I'm liking doing it on my own. I saw this changed my world. Taj Mahal came out with this trio, and I thought, I've never seen Taj in a trio. I wonder if it's going to be old-timey with upright bass and brushes and like that. No. And I was playing with Curtis at the time. We were up in Canada, Thunder Bay, and big band slamming, And Taj was over hanging out by the side of the stage, grooving like, yeah. He's just in the moment. He loves music and people. But when he came out, with this little tiny trio, goes, so it's like, good morning, Miss Brown. Tell me, how do you do? That's what you think, right? That's what he's doing. No, drummer's doing quarter note triplets. Bass player's going, tell me, how do you do? It's all in there, and it sounded huge. 3 people. And then he did Sweeter Than a Honeybee. The entire place was on their feet, screaming at him. I thought, we pounded the bricks for an hour and a half, nothing. I shouldn't say nothing, but it wasn't. They were on their feet. He had them in his paws. And I thought, he's just a joyous human, and he could broadcast that through those different rhythms. And so now I'm working that into the solo thing where I could be those rhythms and phrase vocally differently than what the guitar is doing and make the guitar and the vocals a drum set.
I love it. Well, Lloyd, thank you so much. Let's wrap this thing up.
Okay.
And I'll end the podcast the way I always end the podcast. Folks, be kind. This world would be a little bit of a better place if we all treated everybody with a little more kindness and a little bit of respect. Lloyd, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shawn. I really enjoyed being with you.